Hey everybody, it's Wednesday, October 16th, 2024. Welcome to the NFL Fantasy Football Show presented by Uber Eats. Get game day deals all season long. It's me, your man MG Marcus Grant, joined by Michael F. Florio and Laquan Jones, and at least two of us are hoping for the World Series. We got some things to talk about on today's show, not the least of which is whether or not Shohei Ohtani is going to be the linchpin for what happens in the next 2 games of the NLCS. Next 3 games, I guess, of the NLCS. Whatever. Anyway, we'll get to that maybe on the after show.
I'm getting filled with anxiety just thinking about it.
I just wanted to throw Florio off for the rest of the show, so now he's got Ohtani in his head the whole time. Meanwhile, Laquan is just chilling without any of these sorts of worries and just gets to...
Yeah, I'm just watching you guys go back and forth at it, and, I'm just on my free trial of being a Dodgers fan, so I can't really chime in and talk the trash like I want to, but... It is what it is. Go New York Dodgers.
You're not one of us until you truly get the October heartbreak. Anyway, enough of that. On to the football stuff. We have the Week 7 slate on tap. Also giving you our fantasy hot takes for the week. But let's get started, as we normally do, with some fantasy headlines. We had a couple of big trades go down on Tuesday that we have not yet had a chance to get to, so let's dive into them right here. Davante Adams, no longer a Raider. He goes from Las Vegas to New York. At the same time, he snatches the number 17 off Malachi Corley's back, as he's now a member of the New York Jets, reunites with his old pal Aaron Rodgers. So, simple question, Florio, on the Jets side of things, who are the winners and losers here?
The winners are Davante Adams and Aaron Rodgers. The losers is probably everyone else. I still think Garrett Wilson is usable in fantasy. I think he'll be good, but he is not going to be the unquestioned number 1 target anymore. He's going to have now a guy who brings a 25-30% target share, who has the rapport with Aaron Rodgers already, Aaron Rodgers was letting him stay at his house. That's how close those two are. So, I think Garrett Wilson trends down a bit. I think Tyler Conklin is unusable now. I think Alan Lazard might pop here or there, but not to the point where you could trust him anymore in fantasy. And I think Breece Hall kind of stays the same. Probably a little bit less pass game usage, but the running lanes will be a lot bigger now because you have to worry about 2 stud wide receivers.
He is seeing light boxes. Breece Hall is light boxes on about 40% or so of his rushing attempts. That number might even go down now that you got to deal with both Garrett Wilson and Davante Adams in this offense. Laquan, on the other side of things, for the Raiders, who wins, who loses here?
I think nobody really. I mean, the offense is going to be struggling now even more without Davante Adams, being that he is such an alpha wide receiver that demands all the attacking game planning. But Jacoby Myers ends up being, the wide receiver 1 on another struggling offense with a low tier quarterback play. I mean, how quickly did they turn into the Patriots offense? So I think Jacoby Myers should feel right at home. But the good thing here is if you have Jacoby Myers, he has reliable hands. He's a slot wide receiver that can also play out wide, which I think he'll play a lot. But as you can see, he could be a dynamic player on the offense that can really elevate the thing. So he brings a high target share, and I really feel as though he's still somewhat of a flex option, but you'll definitely have to play him based on matchup, because I'm not quite sure Aiden O'Connell or Gardner Minshew will be able to be depended on for him to have the real high fantasy ceiling weeks.
Yeah, look, I like Trey Tucker kind of as a deep sleeper, too. The guy who had a good preseason, and we've seen him get some opportunities here. But basically, it feels like the Raiders are just going to build the whole plane out of Brock Bowers for the rest of the season. Yeah. He's going to have, like last year we had a rookie finish as the tight end number 1. We could end up having a rookie finish as tight end number 1 again this year with Brock Bowers getting a lot of opportunities. Other big trade that is relevant to fantasy, the Buffalo Bills make a move. So the Jets and Bills play on Monday night. Buffalo wins a close one. The Jets go out and make a trade for Davante Adams, and the Bills are like, I bet. And they go and they get Amari Cooper from the Cleveland Browns. Laquan, I'm going to ask you this, because if I ask this for Florida, we're going to be here for the next half hour. Who are the winners and losers for the Bills in this trade fantasy-wise?
Honestly, the Bills as a whole is a huge winner here, getting somebody like Amari Cooper, which is an alpha wide receiver, which we saw, previous seasons before with Stephon Diggs filling that role. But the biggest winner to me, honestly, is Khalil Shakir. A lot of people are saying, oh, he's going to drop down in targets. He's going to be a guy that's going to be on the waiver wire next week, blah, blah, blah. But this only lets him get a little bit more healthier, and he still remains a crucial part of this offense. We saw Josh Allen complete 9 passes. in the game that Shakir was out with injury. So therefore, he still maintains a role. Josh Allen's never going to quit that slot position. He's never going to quit a guy that has reliable hands. Over 90% of a catch rate. You're not just going to ignore that just because you have a new toy in the building, where honestly, this is just going to create more scoring opportunities for this offense. This is going to get Josh Allen back to that QB1 tier of where we can depend on him as a quarterback one week to week. So this offense just got completely better than what it was in previous weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I think without a doubt, we talked on this show not long ago about what happens when you take Khalil Shakir out of the offense and the havoc it causes. So now you have another weapon in Amari Cooper. I think it only makes it better. It makes Josh Allen better as well. Florio, now with Amari Cooper there in Buffalo, no longer in Cleveland. I know Nick Chubb is coming back, but are we just kind of done with the Browns in fantasy now?
There is one Browns player I would feel okay starting, and it's David Njoku. And that's it. And that's because he should get more. He was already the number 2 target when he was playing behind Amari Cooper. Now with Cooper Cooper was top 5 in the NFL in targets and air yards, so there were opportunities going his way. Look, they were very poor throws and stuff, but I think now the volume will go to Njoku, and it's what we say all the time. The bar for success at tight end is so much lower than at other positions that I think he is worth taking a shot on. I don't want to do it with Jerry Jeudy or Elijah Moore, and no way am I ever trusting Deshaun Watson. And Nick Chubb, I want to take a wait-and-see approach with. So, like, in Week 7, it's Njoku or bust for me in Cleveland.
Yeah, it is bleak in Cleveland offensively. The people are celebrating because the Browns were able to convert a third down. Like, that's where we are. Just converting a third down into first down is sort of cause for celebration with the Browns offense. That is bad. All right, let's spin ahead into Week 7. We got 2 teams on a bye this week. The Bears and the Cowboys are off. So a couple quarterbacks, some tight ends of note. Cole Kmet and Jake Ferguson not available, and some wide receivers notably gone as well. But previewing Thursday Night Football, it's the Broncos and the Saints. You can see that game 8:15 p.m. Eastern on Amazon. I guess it's a revenge game for Sean Payton. I don't know. We'll see. But I will ask you this, Florio. Maybe this is because Adam Rank has been putting this thought into my head. Are we sleeping on Bo Nix?
No. Bo Nix is playing well for real life purposes, but I do love that he is running in fantasy. Like, he has 3 games this year with 25 or more rushing yards, 61 last week. And to Rank's point, he does have multiple passing touchdowns in each of the last 2, but he has 5 passing touchdowns on this season. He is yet to reach 250 passing yards in a game. Most of his games are in the high 100, low 200 range. So, in this week, I could make a case for him as a sleeper against this Saints defense, but he is still far from a player that I think you feel comfortable throwing into your lineup.
More rushing touchdowns than Jalen Hurts and Kyler Murray this year for Bo Nix, for what it's worth. I keep trying to look at this thing and squint and seeing if I can make the same case that Rank is, and I can't completely do it. I feel like this might be a case of wish casting because he probably has him on a super flex team or something like that. I don't know. All right. Moving ahead to Sunday, we got Patriots and the Jaguars. New England is going to Old England to play Jacksonville, 9:30 a.m. Eastern. You can see that game right here on NFL Network and NFL Plus. Subscriptions do apply for NFL Plus. Last week, Laquan, we saw Drake May make his NFL debut through 3 touchdown passes against the Houston Texans. Would you start Drake May? Let's keep it to Superflex 2 QB leagues. Let's not get cute and look at 1 QB leagues. Would you start Drake May in multiple QB formats?
Yeah, he could be a candidate to be a starter this week, man. And honestly, we're looking at Drake May, and I honestly feel like he can build off of this game that he had last week. And his first start, he put up 20 fantasy points, just under 20 fantasy points. But the dude put up 243 passing yards. That's more yards than Jacoby Myers has put in any game this season. He haven't even touched the 200-yard mark. And he also put up 3 touchdowns. The 2 interceptions, okay, he's a rookie. But more so, I'm looking at him, how he's operating in this pocket. Being able to get out of that pocket and get out of trouble is very good for a guy that you're going to want to get those rushing yards to be a candidate to be in your starting lineup. lineups. I mean, as soon as he calls hike, he's seeing his offensive line jerseys just come full speed at him. So it's like, how can he do anything? But it's more so when you have a guy to be able to get out of the pocket like that, and you have reliable receivers like a Hunter Henry and a Demario Douglas, these guys can create separation and keep these drives alive and getting the first downs. And Drake May using his legs is a huge plus, man. So I could see me starting them in Superflex this week because I really am.
I do think the rushing ability is sort of underrated. It's a thing that kind of got talked about during draft season, like actual NFL draft season, that we haven't talked about a lot since, you know, the regular season started. Ran for more than 1,100 yards combined in his last 2 seasons at North Carolina. So he's a guy who can certainly move. Those rushing yards, we know, are very, very valuable when it comes to fantasy football. Lions and the Vikings. Big matchup in the NFC North with a couple of quarterbacks that, you know, are sort of middling, I think, in the eyes of fantasy managers. But if you had to choose between Jared Goff and Sam Darnold, Florio, who you got?
I think I would go Sam Darnold in this one because it's very close, but I could see a world where the Lions jump out into a lead and then they rely more on Gibbs and Montgomery. The Vikings are going to struggle to run the ball against the Lions because every team has fewest rushing and receiving yards allowed to running backs this season. So I think Sam Darnold is going to have to throw a lot this week, and I think he's going to be in catch-up mode. Goff, to me, is the safer option, more of a safe floor, but if you're going for the upside, I think Darnold is the play.
You mentioned how it's hard to run on the Lions. Also very curious as to what the Lions' pass rush is going to be like now that Aiden Hutchinson is gone for the rest of this year. Can they get pressure consistently on Sam Darnold? If not, he stands back there and carves them up with Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, which should be a fun game to watch for sure. We got a rematch of the Super Bowl coming up this week. The Chiefs heading to Santa Clara to take on the 49ers. Laquan, obviously the big story this year with the Chiefs has just been that the offense has not been particularly great. Travis Kelce has sort of come to life the last couple of weeks. But after Kelce, which Chiefs do you feel comfortable starting?
I mean, look, I feel uncomfortable with all of them, but I'm actually comfortable starting Kareem Hunt, being that they gave him 28 touches last week. I mean, Vine will always remain king in my book, so I really appreciate that they were able to give him that many touches and help a lot of fantasy managers out. I mean, ugly production on the ground, but like I said, he's getting the Vine. There's not much any other Chiefs players outside of Travis Kelce that I can really hang my hat on and like be dependent on. But if I'm going to look anywhere, and possibly my roster is down depleted at the running back position, being with all these injuries and etc. But Kareem Hunt looked good against the Saints. Like I said, ugly production when you look at the stat line, but honestly, he looked good to be coming off the couch and being able to put up some good fantasy points.
You're sitting here talking about Kareem Hunt. Somewhere in the universe, Clyde Edwards-Helaire let out a deep, sad sigh.
Yeah.
He's just like reuniting with old players rather than using and working with some of the guys that are currently on their roster. Should be a fun game. I don't know that it's going to be a high-scoring game. Both these defenses playing pretty well. It could be a Travis Kelce, George Kittle showdown in this one. All right, time for Is It In You, fueled by Gatorade. Looking at some guys that are maybe a little bit under the radar, some sleepers, if you will, this week. For you, Laquan, who is on your radar?
It's a tight end. I mean, honestly, the tight end streets are a little bit depleted as well, but Cade Otton has a great matchup against the Ravens this week where they've been allowing a ton of production to the tight end position, and you know he's a guy that's going to be on the field with 90% of the snaps, and as of late, he's been earning his targets from Baker Mayfield. The chemistry is building there. So I think with this matchup against the Ravens, who've been allowing the most receiving yards and catches to tight ends, I think this is where he could really get busy in the middle of the field and possibly fall into the end zone for the first touchdown that the Ravens allowed to tight ends this season.
Quite as it's kept since week 3, nearly a 20% target share for Cade Otton, about 16% of the air yards. Yes, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin get a whole lot of the work, but Cade Otton getting some opportunity as well. Florio, who is your sleeper for the week?
One that I and you and Laquan and anyone who really does this probably celebrated last week. Kamani Vidal. He was a big sleeper for a lot of people coming into the season. Finally got active last week. Only 4 carries, But I like his pass game usage as well. 2 targets, 40 yards, and a touchdown. You see the touchdown catch right here. But my thinking is this was the first game for the Chargers coming off of a bye. So they were able to give J.K. Dobbins he had 25 carries, and he was the primary back in the passing game. We know his long injury history and stuff. Are they going to be able to give him 27 touches a week? I have questions about that. So I do think we could see Kamani Vidal's workload increasing as we move forward. So he is certainly someone that I want on my rosters. And I even started him in the league last week, and that touchdown catch paid off.
Yeah, he's a guy that I liked a lot. After he was a healthy scratch early on, sort of had to move on because I had injuries, I had guys not performing, so I had to kind of drop him. Things that should have been brought to my attention, 5 weeks ago there, Jim Harbaugh, that you're going to start using him back then, but whatever. For me, I'm going down to Carolina. I'm looking at Andy Dalton as a sleeper this week because partially we're always picking on that Washington Commanders defense and partially because Andy Dalton's been decent. I'm not going to say he's been great, but multiple touchdown passes in 3 of the 4 games that he's played since he took over as Carolina's starting quarterback. This is a game that could sneakily be high scoring, mostly because neither of these defenses is particularly good. We know what Jaden Daniels is going to do against Carolina. He's going to get his pass catchers involved. He's going to run the football. But Andy Dalton could have some low-end QB1 vibes. Another one, sort of like Drake May. I think if you're in a 2 QB league, you're absolutely playing him. But deeper leagues, if you're looking for one quarterback to help you out, Andy Dalton could be your guy. All right, coming up, we have some hot starts, guys that absolutely should be in lineups. Plus, we are taking a look at some of the bigger games left on this Week 7 schedule. Stick around for more of the NFL Fantasy Football Show. And it's time for a Hot Starts presented by Uber Eats, guys, that you cannot leave sitting on your bench this week. And Laquan, you look like you're going with a guy that looks like he's looking for back-to-back big performances.
Yeah, let's go. Tyler Algier, Week 6 angry run winner. He needs another scepter coming this week. Let's keep this train going hot against these Seahawks defense who cannot stop the run. A ton of missed tackles. They are bottom of the table when it comes to run defense, and Tyler Algier doesn't need much to eat. He's doing all this on a 40% snap share. So therefore, Bijan Robinson still remains the top guy there, but Tyler Algier is heavily slept on. He is definitely a guy I want in my flex position this week.
Did you say bottom of the table? What is this? The Premier League? What's happening here?
I got to put it in there.
Florio, who do you like this week?
Yeah, I don't know what sport you guys were talking about, but in this version of football, I like Tony Pollard this week because Tony Pollard is everything that we were hoping he was last season when he was a first-round pick in fantasy. Playing well over 60% of the snaps, averaging 19 opportunities per game, and that's led to him scoring 15 or more fantasy points in all but one game this season. And then he gets the Bills, who've allowed the second most fantasy points per game to running backs. They're up there in rushing yards, and they have allowed the most targets, catches, and receiving yards. They get torched by big plays on a weekly basis. And Tony Pollard is the Titans offense right now. So I think he is going to get plenty of volume. Even if they're trailing, they'll throw him the ball, especially with Tajay Spears banged up. He is just a must-start running back right now.
Absolutely love Tony Pollard this week. I also love George Kittle this week, going for the 49ers against the Chiefs. We talked a little bit about that game. Certainly you're starting Travis Kelce on one side, and you're absolutely starting George Kittle, who is the tight end one at the moment, on the other side. Kansas City, the best possible matchups for tight ends this year, giving up almost 18 fantasy points per game to the position. Kittle has at least 4 catches in every game this year, 5 touchdowns in his last 4 games. I think the Niners are going to lean on him very heavily, and what should be an entertaining, although I think it'll be sort of a lower scoring game. This won't be like we've seen with Niners-Chiefs games in the past. Could be more of a defensive battle, but I think Kittle still going to have himself a pretty good day. All right, we keep going to some of the big games in Week 7. Sunday Night Football, the Jets at the Steelers. In Florio, there is talk that Russell Wilson could get the start at quarterback for Pittsburgh. Are you more willing to start a Steelers pass catcher, even beyond just George Pickens, with Russ at QB?
Maybe moving forward, but not this week. Like, I have George Pickens as a sit this week because the Jets defense is really good. Like, look at what they have led to quarterbacks not named Josh Allen. They have held them in check, and a lot of what Allen did came on the ground with his legs. Pickens sees so much time out wide, which means it's Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed, and he primarily plays on the left side, which is Sauce Gardner's side. But the other thing to this is it's not like Russell Wilson has been playing with them this whole time. Like, he got hurt in August and missed a bunch of training camp. Then the ones reps were going to Justin Fields. Even this week, they're saying those two are going to be splitting reps with the ones. So it might take a week or two for Russ to shake off the rust and to get that chemistry down with those other pass catchers. So in this matchup, I think you can play it safe.
Very interesting to sort of watch how this goes. It feels kind of like Indianapolis. One quarterback's the rusher. We like starting him. The other quarterback, maybe not so much for starting, but we like his pass catchers. 2 Monday Night Football games this week. Laquan, we got the Ravens at the Buccaneers, and I'm asking you for a Ravens tight end vibe check. How we feeling?
I'm still feeling like on the fence. Like, I don't know, because honestly, Mark Andrews finding the end zone was such a great moment. Like, we celebrated it that week because he helped a lot of fantasy managers out, or he didn't because he was probably on somebody's bench. But more so, I need more than 3 catches from this guy. I need him to get back to form where we know that he can average 5 catches per game or 7 targets per game, where he can be the focal point, because Isaiah Likely still outsnapped him last week, and that's still bothering me, where I know Mark Andrews could be the guy that can be the number 1 tight end in this league. It's just that we just don't know how his health is right now. That car accident over the summer, it might have played a huge role into why he's not playing the way he's playing, but at least we should have gotten that information before we went out there and drafted him in the first 4 rounds.
Would have been nice to know for sure. Other Monday night game, the Chargers at the Cardinals in Florida. Is Kyler benchable this week, especially if we don't have Marvin Harrison Jr.?
He is, if you have another good option. That's the big caveat. I'm not saying to bench him for like Drake May or Spencer Rattler or Daniel Jones, whatever the flavor of the week was off the waiver wire. But if you paired Kyler with another quarterback, like something like Jared Goff, let's say, which is something that was very possible in drafts, then I think it is okay to take that other option.
Yeah, so far it has not been the season I think a lot of us would have hoped for Kyler Murray, averaging 197 passing yards per game, going against a defense that has been very, very good through the first month plus of the season. All right. You can catch the rest of our Week 7 previews over on NFL Plus for Fantasy Extra. We'll get through the rest of the games on the Week 7 slate. But as we get ready to wrap things up, last few minutes here, it is time for Hot Takes presented by Frank's Red Hot. You can put that bleep on everything. We're going to get spicy here to close out the show. And Laquan, I would accuse you of homerism, but I think you've got something with this take right here.
No, this isn't homerism, man. But Rams DST haven't often been an option for a lot of folks to put in starting lineups, but they're going against the Raiders, who are allowing the 5th most sacks this season. I honestly think this defensive line is going to feast, because it's giving me old St. Louis vibes, where we had Chris Long, Michael Brockers, Robert Quinn, and Aaron Donald on that line, just going to be feasting with these young guys that we got in the trenches.
Oh, all right, so the Rams look like they're going to be playing well, especially because the Raiders. I was going to say the Raiders are down Devontae Adams, but they haven't had him for the last couple of weeks. So, we'll see what Aiden O'Connell can do against that Rams defense. Florio, let's get a little bit spicy here. What are you looking at?
Tank Bigsby will be an RB1 this week. I think he goes for over 100 yards and a touchdown as long as Travis Etienne is sidelined. But not only have the Patriots really struggled against the run already this year, and Bigsby has 90-plus in 2 of his last 3, but the Jags already were in London and the Patriots are traveling now. I think that is a huge advantage for the Jaguars. I think they'll have the lead, and we have seen when they have a lead or they're in a close game, they are not afraid to feed Bigsby.
Yeah, I think Bigsby looks like he's really taken over that Travis Etienne job we saw last week. Etienne was not a fumble. It looked like a fumble. It was called an incomplete pass. But after that, also he had a hamstring flare-up, and we didn't see him the rest of the day. And, now Tank Bigsby playing so well, it just seems like he really is pushing to get, if not the starting job, certainly a bigger slice of the pie than what he has been getting so far this season. For me, I'm looking at another running back, and it's Alexander Mattison. Now, you heard Laquan say the Rams defense is going to eat against the Raiders, and I don't think that's completely wrong, but I do think there is room for Alexander Mattison to go out and get some production here. He's running just as well as Zamir White, although admittedly that is a low bar, but he is more involved in the passing game than White is, which means he is not as game script dependent. We see some big runs, some explosive plays out of Mattison going against the Rams defense that really has struggled against running backs, especially those who catch the football as well. I don't know how many points are going to be scored in this game because I'm not really sure what version of either offense is going to show up this week, but I do think we see Alexander Mattison get some touches, and I'm telling you, I think he will be a top 15 fantasy running back. He'll catch a few passes, maybe he finds the end zone, and Madison's going to be a bit of a surprise, be a nice flex option for a lot of fantasy managers. So there you go. Those are our hot takes for week 7. In the meantime, good place for us to sit it down. That is it. We are done. We appreciate you hanging out with the NFL Fantasy Football Show presented by Uber Eats. You know the drill. Tell 2 friends to tell 2 friends. Rate, review, and remember, no man goes before his time unless the boss leaves early. Thank you for watching. Be good. Take care of yourselves, and we will talk to you tomorrow.